Hey, this is Pat with Racket String Tips, and we have Brad here today. Hi, Brad.
Hey, Patrick.
Hey, and so today we're going to have some new stringing tips and some hacks, and also going to talk a little bit about tennis news, and we'll kind of see where that takes us. So, getting right into it, I went ahead and kind of looked at what was new in tennis news this week, and I think some of these things have kind of been going on for a while. Some of them might be new. As we I just recently read that Nadal just tested positive for COVID following the Abu Dhabi comeback. Emma Raducanu, she also tested positive for COVID, so she's out of the exhibition event at Abu Dhabi. Then we have Peng Shui, I guess, reconfirmed she's safe. She made a call, I guess, recently to the Olympic organization says, so that's good because, that's always a concern when you make allegations to a government body, even though she said that she denied making any allegations against the Communist Party. Australian Open organizers confirm some medical exemption, a medical exemption process. So that's, I think, kind of what we've been waiting for, right? Because the 2022 season is starting in about 22 days. And so obviously the Australian Open is that first Grand Slam starting the season, kicking the season off. And so there's been a lot of talk about, who's going to play, who's not going to be able to play, who's going to go ahead and, get the vaccine and all, that's a big issue, right? Or some people don't want to reveal whether they did or not. So I guess there's going to be kind of an alternative, meaning that they can plead their case individually. So it's going to be kind of interesting, I think, going into that. I always love watching the Australian Open, and when I had a chance to string there, it's just like the crowds there are like no other place. I mean, it's just like fans for the country, for their own country, supporting them, and it just gets rowdy, and it's kind of crazy. People down there are nice. It's just a fun place to be.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I always it kind of helps me get through January. New York Januaries can be pretty
Yeah.
cold and snowy outside. So yeah, to turn on Australia in the middle of January and see players sweating and blue skies is really welcoming. Got my jewels back here.
Yeah, okay, that's your because your other one, I always see the other one, your other cat, the black one.
Yeah, the black one, Jules, I guess wants to be up here today. But the ATP Cup starts January 1st, 2022. So, and that's in Sydney. So that's I don't know a lot about that. I looked it up quickly. There's 16 countries represented in the ATP Cup. It starts New Year's Day in Sydney. The U.S. is one of the 16 countries. I think I read that John Isner and Taylor Fritz are representing the U.S. And so it'll be interesting to see, with kind of the reemergence of COVID hysteria, it'll be interesting to see what happens the first week and a half or so in Australia with this ATP Cup. What's going on, and hopefully, look, if we can only kind of hope and pray that the severity of this is less than maybe it had been, but still it's important. Everyone's got to be careful, and I'm sure they're racking their brains in Australia. There's a lot to deal with on top of a health scare like this. So they've
right,
really
and things are just turning, and now there's the new variant that everybody's talking about, and so how's that going to affect it? Are we all of a sudden going to go to more restrictions? I mean, Australia's already has pretty severe restrictions in place as far as just traveling there, so that's got to be a major impact. And then of course on any given, as the days draw closer, who's going to be pulling out for whatever reasons, and there's 20 days of players getting COVID, right? I mean, like, you just never know, right? Like, I mean, you've got some top, I mean, Emma, she just comes off of her last, off of her big title at the Open, right? And so, she wants to obviously make a big move. So, who knows how that's going to go. And if you have COVID, does that mean that you automatically, with a negative test, can then participate? Or do you still have to get the vaccine stuff? So, all those kind of things, I guess they're all working through that. So will be interesting. I mean, there'll be a lot of news, I think, over the next couple weeks to follow. I'm going to try to keep on top of that, because that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, with Emma coming, virtually out of nowhere to win the U.S. Open, she wants to, do well early in the season. to take a little pressure off, because chances are she can gain a lot of WTA Tour points early in the season. But come September, she's going to have to defend. I don't know what the points is. It 2,000 points you get for winning a Grand Slam, or 1,000 points?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I know that knocked her in the top 100, no problem.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. I just remember, I think when Mary Pierce was defending the Australian Open one year, she lost first round, and her ranking went from, it may have dropped 20 points in the world, number 2 to number 19, because of one tournament.
Yeah,
But
I know. It's amazing, especially when you don't have that a whole lot of points, starting out or whatever. She was even named the BBC Sports Personality of the Year this year. So I mean, she's celebrity status now, right?
Yeah,
So, yeah, that's
for
kinda
sure.
cool. That's kind of cool. Oh, I had the other computer on. A lot of it seems to be around, the Australian Open, COVID, all those restrictions and things, and of course the Peng Shui news that continues and stuff. Hopefully she'll be able to get out there and play and do what she wants to do.
Yeah, and there was kind of a fun story. I think it was in Florida. I'm not positive. They had the kind of parent-child golf event, and Peter Korda, former Australian Open champion, played with his daughter Nelly Korda, who I think is #1 in the world right now in golf. And there's a neat little video on Twitter of Nelly kind of approaching Tiger Woods, who was in the same tournament with his son, and just asking him for a picture. And Tiger was real nice. And then Sebastian Korda happened to be there also, and he got in the photo with his dad. And Tiger asked him a few questions about how they had been doing in the tournament and stuff. So that was kind of neat and stuff.
Oh, good.
But,
Oh, good.
yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to make sure we get some stringing tips in today. So I kind of thought of a few that I could go over that I don't think I've talked too much about before. But I wanted to first of all talk a little bit about grommet repair, and so there's a couple ways, right, that we can repair grommets. And so what do you typically prefer to do? Do you prefer to grind them out, or do you prefer to use replacement grommets, or do you prefer to use tubing?
Well, I first of all, I don't have to deal with this too often. I don't have a lot of situations where I have grommet issues. The first thing I'll usually do is go to tubing, okay? But I will let the client know that, hey, this is what's going on. We can put a little tubing in here. I explain what it is, and we go that route. Now, if there's several of them and they're dry and they're cracked, and then I kind of suggest, let's just, it's not a lot of money. I don't know if it's 8, 10, 12 bucks. Let's just get you a whole new set of bumper guard and grommets. And
yeah, but what if you can't? Let's just say you can't, replace the grommet, the bumper guard, or the grommets because you can't get a hold of a set.
That's true. That's true. So then, yeah, I don't have a kit of all the little different size grommets. Like, I probably should get that. I usually just use the tubing and stuff.
Yeah.
I have a few of the sizes, but not too much.
Yeah, and what I recommend too sometimes is if you are looking for a grommet kit and it's not in a readily available online, through the regular means like the Racket, Tennis Warehouse or Frometh or Tennis Express or Tennis. What's another one? Any of those online, if you can't find the grommet set, there are grommet network kind of places like through the USRSA. If you're a member of the USRSA, they have what's called the Grommet Network. And
that's on Facebook. There's groups.
And Facebook too. I saw on Facebook, if you belong to some of the pro tennis stringing groups, some of the top there, then that also helps you connect to that network, because people are just saying, hey, do you by chance have the grommets for such and such racket? Does anybody have the grommets? And then if somebody just happens to have one laying around, because for most people they want to help each other out, and sometimes you've got some of those laying around, those obscure ones that you might not ever use, but maybe on Instagram as well, that might be there's some places there as well. So speaking of Instagram, I just started. I can't believe I didn't have a tennis Instagram account before. I had another Instagram account, but I decided to finally start one for racket stringing. And so just a put every day I'm going to put a tip of the day on there, and just kind of, that way people can just kind of get some little info every day, and hopefully that'll help
Yeah, good idea.
Help your stringing along a little bit. I'll post that in the video as well. So
Nice.
so yeah, with the grommet, I agree with you, as far as if it's just one, use tubing. But a lot of times what'll happen is if they're starting to get brittle and they're starting to break, and you have a racket that somebody's playing with that's 30 year, an old racket that the whole thing is getting like that, and you can't get a grommet strip, then you got to start, taking them out with a grommet grinder, right? They come in a couple different sizes.
Yes.
And basically what it is, it has has a little grinding, it's like it's a sharp awl that has a rough surface, and so you'll take it and go, we'll do a demo on that sometime, but you basically just can grind it out, and then you buy some grommet replacements, and you cut it to the size that you need, and you place it in there, and it's just, it solves the problem. But it becomes messy after a while, right? When you have so many in there. I mean, if you end up having 3 or 4 in there, it becomes kind of messy. And when you're stringing the racket, sometimes you have to hold them a little bit, and the way they seed and stuff. So it's not the best way to do it, but it works, right? If you have
and it's a good opportunity to try to sell them a new frame. Get excited about the new rackets out there. There's some beautiful frames. I mean, some people are just creatures of habit. They don't want to change much, and that's fine too. But if it gets to the point where it's just a major headache, for you or for me,
well, and the integrity of strings, right? I mean, you're putting them through all these grommets and so forth, and who knows if the corners are, a little bit, you're going around sharper corners, or the string is exposed in different areas with the grommets, and it just shortens the life. It could shorten the life of the string as well sometimes when you're using too many of these grommets and so forth. Are so 3 ways that you can solve the problem, but
right,
whichever works. But it's good to have access to all 3 of them, if you can and stuff. So
for sure, yeah.
And then one other tip, I've mentioned it before, and I have it in I think we talked about it I talked about it when I did my 40 stringing tips, and that is, if you sometimes string rackets for players, and they bring in a racket that has a completely clean white grip, you want to keep it that way, right? You want to keep it that way for the customer. You don't want to put, your hands, if you had something, a little bit of grease or a little bit of smudge or something on your hands from stringing and stuff, and then you touch that grip, and then you end up making their grip dirty or something from that. Or I've had this before where, like, maybe you're taking a lunch break and you're eating something, then you go back to the racket and you touched it, and now it smells like pizza or whatever. So what I recommend is putting on some kind of plastic over the grip when it comes in. And you can do that by just using maybe a sheet protector and cutting it, or you can use maybe even a sandwich bag and cutting that, and then opening it up, and then just putting this, around the grip, and then put a rubber band, and then under the rubber band, if you have a dampener that was on the racket, you can slide that underneath to keep it so you don't lose it. So it's kind of a tip that I think it's almost a dual purpose there, right? You have protecting the grip, and then also a place to put your vibration dampener and so forth. And this way the grip, keeps, plus now with COVID and stuff like that, all the germs and things, before when we were like concerned because we didn't know what we need to look out for, right? And so it's just a way to keep the, because some of the grips too come in really grungy, right? They're like, it's like, ooh, I don't even want to get near that thing. So this way at least you can cover it, and
totally.
So I think it works both ways. And so I kind of like that idea, and that way you don't have to worry about messing up the grip, getting anything on it. Sometimes when you're stenciling and maybe a little bit of ink or something, it just keeps it all nice and clean and stuff. So those are the 2 tips I think I have today.
Again, I haven't talked about this. I'd mentioned it to you personally. With my stringing machine, it's rather heavy, and and I'm in a smaller, kind of a condo, and so when I string, I push it out. I push it maybe 10 feet into the room to give me a little more space and room. So I suggest, like, furniture sliders. And these are great. I get like 4 of these. I put it under my Biardo, which is, do you remember the weight? Is it 130 pounds, 140 pounds?
I think the base weighs close to 50 pounds, and then the machine weighs 97 pounds, I think.
Yeah, so we're almost 150 pounds. So 4 of these, and I can slide this easily across my floor with just with one hand. So this comes in handy.
Yeah, actually, I need to get those for my machine because I had gotten, because I was going to do the same thing, and so I bought, I bought something that was, I'm trying to look for it. I don't know if I have it here. I didn't realize I needed something that heavy duty because I bought some felt strips that I thought I could use. They're kind of fairly thick, but I'm not, now that I see what you have, I think I need a slider because it is gone on like a floor that has a slick surface.
Yeah, well, they do have, like you said, 2 different kinds. They have, this is more for carpet, and then they have for like hardwoods or laminate. Laminate usually, the felt usually they have bigger squares, but you know, whatever you think, but they work great. So that's my, my kind of first tip, and my second tip is something that's come in handy for me is I constantly am looking at YouTube videos from all different areas of tennis instruction, tennis stringing, stringing tips, whatever it is. So I create a catalog in my YouTube where, I'll have a folder just for, stringing knots, a folder for stringing tips. And when I find a video that really, just kind of talks to me and makes sense, I drag it into that category in my folder. So I don't have to search through YouTube again, all these videos. So that's just another tip, just to help you be organized.
That's a good idea because I know a lot of times there's 2 or 3 good videos on like tying knots or weaving or starting using a starting clamp or starting the mains or stringing around the world. And sometimes you don't remember to go back to another one that you wanted to watch. And so, I probably need to do that as well because, sometimes I'm like thinking like, oh, well, you just need one video on it. But really, everybody has their own way of stringing. And one way is not always necessarily the best way. You can learn from a lot of different points. That's why there's a lot of people doing the same thing. And sometimes you're like, well, somebody's already strung a racket, 2-piece, with a 16-19 pattern. So why should I do it? But you know what? You just never know. From different people, you pick up different little tips, and everybody has their own take on how to string. And sometimes you're like, well, that part of it, maybe not. I don't agree with that, or I don't like that, but then there's another part you're going, oh yeah, I learned something from that. So you can definitely learn something from all those videos. And that's why I hope people, learn stuff from these videos. And, these aren't the only videos you should be watching, right? You should watch, a lot of different ones to get different perspectives. And because at some point you start to learn and you start to understand how things kind of go together. And then you're like, well, I like this way better. And I know now why I like this way better because it makes more sense to me because it's going to keep this and that, in line better and so forth. And sometimes we just have to have an open mind with the stringing stuff and be teachable. Sometimes I know we like, my way is the only way. I'm not going to even, visit anybody else's ideas, but that's a good idea to keep a whole bank. And YouTube is really good at being able to create those kind of lists and stuff for yourself. And
it's helped me. It's after, it's happened a few times where I'm trying to find, geez, I remember I watched a video like 6 months ago. Where is that? How do I find that? And now I've just kind of become more organized, which has been helpful. So.
Right. And you know what? We can end it on that. We've gone 21 minutes, and I know we were saying that we're going to try to keep some videos under 25 minutes because that just makes more sense for a lot of viewers as far as, keeping the viewership, going that whole time, because it's sometimes hard watching long videos and stuff. So, hey, so we'll just end it on those 2 tips, or 3 tips,
Sounds
I guess.
Good.
We talked a little bit about, actually, I think that's 4 tips. Yeah. You had 2 and I had 2, right? So, so I'll mention those in the video when I go back and edit it. And so I'll make sure I put that in there for everybody, but thanks for joining me today, Brad.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon, and we'll see you next time.
Sounds good.
Thanks,
See you, Patrick.
Thanks for watching.